guys! So I'm going to assume you already read the title, you know what this video is about. I just want to give a tiny disclaimer before we get started. I know there's tons of my audition experience videos out there and they're great. I watched a ton of them before I auditioned and they were so helpful in letting me know, like when I got there, I feel like I was very mentally prepared in what was going to come. But they go into more tiny details like what I was wearing and where I signed in on the iPad and how many people got cut. And for me, I wanted to know more about, well, why are there different types of auditions? What are they really looking for at these auditions? Why are they having me do this and that? So this video is more of explaining why there's different types of auditions and what they're looking for and how you can be the most successful at each audition. So if that's what you're looking for, just keep watching and let's get started. At the very end, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to stand out at all these types of auditions, but I'm going to break it down to 3 different types of auditions, at least the ones that I went to. There could be more than 3, but these are the 3 that I definitely saw were different auditions. The first one is the Disney College Program, or if you're going to audition that's off property. So it's not on the Walt Disney World property, it's not on the Disneyland property, it's probably going to be in a city like Chicago or New York. This also fits into that category. The second audition type is, I'm going to call it Disney Abroad. The one I went to, I think was for Disney Tokyo. This also fits for Disney Paris or Disney Shanghai. That's going to be that under that category. And the third category is going to be Princess. It also works for any face lookalike, so Tinkerbell, Alice. It's not necessarily princesses, but I feel like that's what people know it best as, so that's what that one is for. Before we get started, I'm going to show you guys what the website looks like. So if you go to Disney Auditions or even Google search that, this is what comes up. So you can see all the different types of auditions. Sometimes they're not showing the certain audition that you were looking for. Like if you're looking to be working for Disneyland Tokyo, they're not always doing auditions for that. So please keep checking back. It's always really important to keep checking back to look what you're looking for. They have the Disney College Program auditions. They have auditions in a city close to you, so you don't have to travel to Orlando. They have the face lookalike auditions, so they're always having tons of auditions. I would constantly keep checking back at this website, and that will be the best way for you to know which auditions are going to be the best for you to attend. The first audition is for the Disney College Program or the off-property audition. And really, before I get started about the different rounds, the focus is a lot on height and also your usability. And I'll explain what that means at the very end. So for the first round of this, they really want to see how well you can move and just see if you can move at all. If you're going to be a meet and greet character, you're not going to be doing parades all the time, so you don't have to be a great dancer. And they do emphasize that in the audition as well. They just want to see how well you can move and what your range is. So the first round, they just basically have you do this 2 8 count thing. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're doing your hands like a jazz hand. Super, super simple, really easy, not terribly difficult. After that, they'll make a cut, and then the second round, they will have you do an animation. So for the first one I ever did, it was you were an exotic animal in a zoo and then you are a zookeeper. Like you'll do half the time you'll do the animal and then you'll switch and do the zookeeper. And that's what you do for an animation. And then you will also do this dance, and it starts off pretty easy, but then it gets a little bit trickier as you go on. Again, it's totally fine if you're not very good at dancing. They're just trying to see how well you can move. Like I knew I was pretty good about like halfway through, but then the end stuff, they were doing pirouettes and I was like, I can't do this. So they just want to see like how well you can move. If you're not good at doing pirouettes, that's fine. It's not a problem. They just want to see what your range is. So I'm not super confident on what round 3 is like. I never experienced it. I was always cut before round 3. So for round 3 for these types of auditions, I'm just gonna go off base of what my friend said. I've heard that what they did was they took more pictures of them, they gave them a character, and they had them read this script based off what the character was saying. So they filmed them, they didn't get dressed up or anything, they stayed just as they were, they just gave them a script to read off of. And that was round 3. So at the beginning of explaining what this type of audition looks like, I did briefly mention that the focus is a lot on height and versatility or usability, and now explain why. So if you see the different types of rounds, they're really trying to see how well you can move and seeing how well you can animate, and that all boils down to they're probably looking more for people who are going to be fur performers than face characters. Now they will be looking for both. I know for the Disney College program, because you're only there for such a short amount of time, they're really looking to find people to fill those spots for the main VIP characters, which is Mickey Mouse, the Chipmunks, Pluto, Goofy, those fur characters. Fur being that they can't talk, and face being those performers that you talk with, like Anna and Elsa. So basically they're trying to see how well you can perform and animate, because Mickey Mouse doesn't necessarily always talk to you. Sometimes he does. Just go to Disney World, you'll see. But every single person I know, even the ones that did face characters as well, they were also a fur character, because they're only there for such a short amount of time, and there's lots of spots that they need to fill with performers for those main roles. So they're trying to see how well you can do performing in those roles, because if you are a face character whatsoever, you will also be a fur character as well. Now, depending on what you're doing, it might be less, it might be more, but you will always get trained first in fur, and then you'll get trained in face. But that's entirely different video. I just wanted to briefly explain that, because that's why they're looking at your height and looking at your usability and seeing how much they can use you. So for me, I always got cut in those auditions. I went to 2 of them. And I didn't understand why for a while, and my friends would be like, well, it might be because of your height. I'm 5'4" 3/4, and Chipmunks, the max height for that is 5'4", and for Pluto, the minimum height is 5'5". So I'm literally right in between those, which seems like it's a little, you know, it's a little nitpicky, but for safety, that's why they have those heights, is knowing how well everything will fit when you have the whole costume on. Basically, my friends kept telling me that could be why you're getting cut, is because I was doing well with the movement, I was doing well with animation, but I just wasn't the right height, because the characters I ended up doing besides my main character were King Louie, Mr. Smee, and Mrs. Incredible. So those are all very random characters. They're not the main characters, and the need for those performers isn't as high as it would be for Mickey Mouse or the Chipmunks. So that's kind of why for those auditions, they're really focusing on height and how much they can use you. So if you do get cut, just like I was, I wouldn't be too upset about it, because you can't really control your height. You can control how good you are at movement or animation. You can give 110%, but if you're not the right height, they can't really use you for much. So understanding that, I hope you guys can be more successful, and just knowing that that's really what they're looking for at those types of auditions. The second type of auditions I'm talking about are the Disney Abroad auditions. So auditions for Disney Tokyo or Disney Paris, that's the one that I'm talking about in this audition type. So the one I went to, this is the least experience I have, because I was cut after the first round. The first round was basically this poise and grace dance. It was kind of like a lyrical dance. It wasn't super difficult, but it wasn't super easy either. I know for the college program auditions, I wore like leggings and a t-shirt or a tank top and running shoes, and that was fine. But for this audition, I saw there was a lot of people that wore dresses or skirts, and they wore dance shoes, they brought a resume, they brought a headshot. So it was definitely more of a professional type of audition, and it was something that I wasn't fully prepared for. But basically, I mean, again, I don't know what the other rounds are like, but knowing that it's for Disney Tokyo, I know that they use a lot of the performers. They're meet and greet performers. They also use them in parades and shows. So they're looking for performers who can do everything. Whereas like in Orlando, you might be doing meet and greets, but you don't necessarily do parades or shows. That's if you are skilled in that area and you have the ability to move around, you might be able to be one of those as well, but there's different like groups, if that makes sense. Whereas in Tokyo or other places, they don't really have a ton of performers. So the performers that they pick have to be able to do all these different types of things. So for these types of auditions, they're really looking for versatility. So if you're a good dancer and you're already a face performer, or you've done well at those types of auditions, this might be the audition for you. All right, so the very last type of audition is, I'm gonna call it the princess audition, because I have no idea what else to call it, the character lookalike. But basically, this is the one where you go to where they're looking for character lookalikes, which mainly are the princesses. There are Tinkerbell and Alice as well, but this is the audition for those types. So it's different than the ones for the college program, and it's different than the ones you would go to if it's in a different city. So these ones are specifically going to be at Orlando, and I'll explain why that's important. For these ones, the focus is really on making sure that you look like the character that they are going to put you as. So it's much more based off of looks. It's still they still want to see if you can animate, because like I said before, you're going to be a fur character as well. You're not always going to be a pretty princess. You're also going to be a fur character too. So just know that before you get into it. Don't just think that you'll get to be the princess all the time, or Tinkerbell or Alice. You will also still do those fur characters. But this one is really focusing mainly on just seeing if you look like that person, and also how well you can animate and move. So I only went to one of these auditions, and this is the audition I went to where I got casted. So the very first round, there's about, I want to say 400 girls there at this audition. And you see girls with tons of makeup on, you see girls with no makeup on, like this really fancy outfit, and then girls like me who are like in a tank top and yoga pants. So you see lots of different types of people, and you go in groups of 30. So I went to a room and a group of 30. You stand in lines of 10. They're playing Disney songs, so it's like really cheerful. And as you're standing there, they will look at you one by one, and you're just standing there and they're just looking at you, and then they go on to the next line, and then they go to the next line, and then from there, in my group at least, there was 30 girls and I was one of 2 girls picked. So it's a huge cut. That one's pretty intense. At least it's kind of very similar to the first round of the college program where they cut you if you don't have any sort of movement. This one, they honestly are looking for if you look like a cartoon character. So there were some girls that I was next to or made friends with that were stunning. They were so beautiful, and then they got cut, and I never understood why. So I honestly don't think that it's based off of how pretty you are, how great your makeup looks that day. It's much more based off of you look like a cartoon, and they'll say that. They said that in the very beginning. They're saying, we're looking for people who look like cartoons. If you don't look like that, like, don't be upset. Like, it's not like we don't think you're pretty. We just are, this is what we're looking for. Anyways, so round 2, what was round 2? We had to animate. What did I have to animate? I animated, you had to wrap a present and bring a present to a party. So again, you don't want to just like, bow, done. Like, you want to actually like think about, or getting ready. That's what it was. It was wrapping a present and it was getting ready for a party. So I had 2 animations, and when you're getting ready, you don't just like throw on the clothes and go. You are like putting on makeup, you're looking at this outfit, you're holding it up next to you, you're like, oh god, that looks terrible. Like, how about this necklace? No. So you want to like really think of a story and create a story when you're animating. And the dance, it was kind of in between round 1 and round 2 for the Disney college program, where it wasn't like a super simple dance, but it was more like grace and poise. I know we had to do like a bunch of arm bursts and things like that, and you had to do like this flowy walk. It was just it was pretty simple. Like, if you've ever taken any sort of ballet or dance class, like, you got this. It's not that hard. So yeah, that's what the second round was. It was, you were doing the animation, and then you did the graceful movement, and that was it. So then the round 3, at Orlando, again, this is why it's important at Orlando. They put them in the costume, they put them in the actual costume that you see in the parks. They put them in the actual wig that you see in the parks. They gave them the makeup that you see in the parks. Like, you're fully decked out as the character. And then they take pictures of you in the costume, and then they have you read a script in the costume, and they want you to try to do the character's voice. And they understand that you're gonna go through training. You don't have to know the voice perfectly, but they want you to like at least try, so they get some sort of idea of what that's going to look like. And that's it. So round 3, basically you get dressed up in the costume. It's super fun. It's kind of fun seeing the people you're with get dressed up, and you're like, oh, like, I can see that now. And you can kind of see where the casting directors were seeing them, and it's super fun. So that's the one I made it through all the way through. I know round 3 exists for the college program one. I know it's just a little bit different because you're not actually getting dressed up in the costume. You're just reading the lines, but you're still in like normal clothes. But it's really cool in Orlando because you put on the costume and you put on the wig and the makeup, and it's really, really magical and really cool. So yeah, that's it. So for the round 3, just to wrap it up, or round 3, audition 3, to wrap it up, basically they're really looking for lookalikes and seeing if you can fit into these characters' roles. They know that you're going to be a fur performer, but it's not as important because that's what they're really looking for at these auditions. Okay, so wrapping it up, just to briefly summarize the different types, we have the first type of auditions, which is the Disney college program. I don't know why I have the hardest time saying that. It's probably because I think character performer, but then I also think college program, and they're both CP. and it's really confusing. I don't know why. Anyways, we have the Disney College Program performer at any sort of audition that's not in Orlando, and that one they're really looking at height and they're looking at usability and using you for different roles. Number 2, we had the Disney Abroad, where they're looking to see how versatile you can be. They want to make sure that you can both do meet and greets but also do shows as well. And then number 3, they're basically just looking at you to see if you look like the characters that they have in the parks. I also have 5 tips I wanted to share with you guys just to be successful overall in all these different types of auditions. I know for different auditions there's certain things that will help you do better than others. Like if you're a really good dancer, you'll probably do a lot better in the Disney Abroad audition than I did. Or if you're the right height, you'll probably do a lot better in the Disney College Program audition than I did. So, but besides those other things that you can or cannot control, these are some tips that you can control and that will help you be the most successful at every audition. Tip number 1 is you are auditioning the whole time. And I'll explain what that means. You know, typically when you go up before the casting directors, it's pretty obvious when you're auditioning. Like they will say like, okay, like you're going into a room now in a group of 4 and like you're standing before them and they're watching you with notepads, and that's when you are, it's pretty obvious you're auditioning then. But you are really auditioning the whole time. When you're learning the things, when you're sitting around waiting for the casting directors to arrive, when you're asking questions about how did you do this movement? You are auditioning during that process because they're still looking at you. Yes, they don't have a pen and paper in front of you, but you want to stand out there as well. You want to be smiling the whole time. They want to see you're having fun. I'm kind of an introvert, so it's not easy for me to go out of my way to like make new friends, but like you sure bet that I'm going to be talking to every single person near me and being really friendly and being super outgoing, because that's what you're doing as a performer. You're constantly meeting new people and you're interacting with them. So they want to see that you can do that. So get outside the mindset that you're only auditioning when they're in front of you with a pen and paper. Like you're auditioning the whole time, even when they're not watching you. Like you still want to have your A game on or A face, bring 110%. Like you want to make sure that you're smiling, outgoing, you're really paying attention, you're asking questions too. Like if you don't understand a certain movement or a certain step, like be sure to ask them, because you want to stand out and show that you care and you want to do the best that you can. Tip number 2 is you want to dress for success. So I'm not going to go into detail about what I wore, even though I already mentioned it twice, it's fine. But you want to dress for success. You won't want to go in there wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, because I don't know about you, but I can't dance in jeans. It's really hard, it's not easy, especially if you have like Ugg boots on, like you won't be dancing much. So you want to make sure that you're wearing clothes that you're comfortable in. For the auditions I went to that I was successful at, I wore yoga pants, a tank top, and tennis shoes. The tennis shoes were just to make sure that I can move around pretty easily. The tank top is you do want to show them like your physique if you are going to be like a face character. You want to be able to show them what you look like. You don't want to wear like a trench coat, because then they can't see what you look like when you're moving. So I wore clothes I was comfortable in. There was girls there in like v-neck t-shirts, that works too. So whatever you're comfortable in, but what also fits that audition. It made a lot more sense for the Disney Abroad audition to wear like a skirt or to wear like dance shoes, because it was focused on dancing and being graceful. So it would have made more sense for me to wear dance shoes to that one, despite the fact that I wore tennis shoes. It was fine, but I think I would have set myself up for more success if I had worn dance shoes to the more dancey audition. And just as long as you're wearing comfortable clothes, I mean, you'd be surprised at what people wear at these auditions. Just, I wouldn't recommend wearing jeans, just something you can move in that you're comfortable in, that shows off your physique, and yeah, that will set you up for the most success. Tip number 3 is that the audition affects more than just getting the job. It's so much more than just being able to say, yes, we like you, you're hired, because these scores will impact you when you have the job. When you are doing the audition and you do the movement and you do the animation, you're getting scored, and they keep those scores, and those scores stay attached to your profile. Like when you've been there for like a year or 2 years, like they are still connected with you. So the way they score is a score out of 5. And if you have a 5, that's like insane. I've actually never heard of anyone getting a 5. Like a 4 is insanely good. 5 is like unheard of. But where you want to be at is a 3-3. So that means you have a 3 in movement and a 3 in animation. And those are typically the people they pick for parades. So if you want to do parades and shows, that's typically the people that they pick. They have them start off at a 3-3. Even if you have a 2, that's totally fine. You can go to workshops and improve your score, but 2 or 3 is average. 2 is more average, I feel like. 3-3 is pretty good standing. Like that shows that you can dance, you're more eligible for parades and shows. So just know that when you're doing this audition for your movement or for your animation, I would never half-ass it just because like it will affect you in your job later on. Like because if you want those opportunities to get more characters or if you want to be able to do more parades and shows, like that's still going to be attached to you. So just keep that in mind, like no pressure, but you need to know that that will still affect you in your job. It's not just like getting you the job in the first place, but it still is connected to you even when you have it. Tip number 4 is you want to set yourself up for success, which is kind of like the whole point of this video. For me, I was really frustrated when I got cut from both the Disney College Program auditions and also the, what was it called? Disney Abroad audition, the one for Tokyo. But I wasn't setting myself up for success. Like I did dance, but I wasn't a super great dancer, and that was my first one I've ever gone to. So obviously the girls who had been there much longer time and had gone to those auditions before did a lot better than I did. And the college program, like I couldn't affect my height. That's something I cannot control, even if I wanted to. Like they have you take your shoes off. It's not like you can wear like high-heeled boots or anything like that. Like I can't control my height, and so if I don't have that working for me, then I'm not going to get the role. And it's not because of me or anything I could have done differently. It's more because that's just not in the cards for me. So I want you guys to set yourself up for success and just know, like, understand like why it's not working and not get hard on yourself. It's not anything you did or did not do. It's just not a good fit. It's like any other job. If you go to an interview for a job and you don't get it, like, it's okay because that just wasn't meant for you. And maybe there was other things, like maybe it wasn't you. Most of the time it wasn't you. It's not like, oh, we didn't like you. It's someone else had a different experience. Or if you are, like I've always loved performing. I performed in high school and junior high. Like I've always loved acting, and this is really an acting type role. But if you're like an introvert and you don't like meeting new people and you're not good at dancing and you hate moving and animating, and that sounds like no fun for you, then I would take that into consideration when going to one of these auditions, because you really have to enjoy animating and meeting people and being under intense conditions. Like, it ain't pretty in those costumes. I know there's some big lie out there saying like, oh, you have a fan in your costume. That's not true. Like, I was out there in 80-degree weather having fun with King Louie, and it wasn't easy. And so you have to know that it's not going to be all princesses and tiaras and beautiful makeup and fancy dresses. Like, it's not easy. And so just set yourself up for success and know that if you get cut, it's probably not because they hate you. I seriously doubt that. It's more because either you weren't a good fit or you weren't the right height. So just know that it's not you. Don't take it personally and just brush it off and move on. And of course, tip number 5 is just have fun. Like, enjoy it. It was so much fun. I love the auditions I went to. I either went with friends or I met friends. Like, I met my friend Shane. He is so funny and he's so talented. Way more talented than I could ever be. And he's just so entertaining to watch, and I'm so excited for him. And my friend Marissa too. I met her my very first audition. I got cut. She didn't. She made it, and she was there longer than I was. But then when we both were there, we got to meet up. So it was really fun. And obviously, like, at these auditions, like, you could like be by yourself and not interact with other people, but you could meet your friends that you would have for like months and years to come. I guess, yeah, just last tip, have fun, enjoy it. Even if you get cut, like I got cut 3 times, I still kept coming back for some reason. But it was a lot of fun, and you make lots of great friends. And that is it. So thank you guys for hanging out with me for this entire video. I know it was a lot, but when I went to the auditions after watching all these my audition experience videos, there was a couple of things I was like, wait, why didn't they explain that? Or I feel like I would have been so much better off knowing a couple different things about like what to expect at different types of auditions, or the fact that there were different types of auditions, because no one ever talks about that. So I hope this was really helpful and beneficial. I know there's a lot of things I didn't talk about. Like, for my Disney College Program, I was an attendant, I wasn't a performer. I could talk about that, or what it's like being a performer, or what it's like working for Disney as a whole. So if you guys want to see any of those types of videos, just let me know in the comments below. Or if you got to audition too and you had a different experience, or things that you like or didn't like about your audition experience, please leave that in the comments below. I'd love to talk with you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!